Hey there, and welcome to the ADK channel. Today I'm here with Kirk. First of all, I should say that I'm here with Kirk. Unfortunately, no Andy tonight. Andy is on other projects for us, but we do have the lads from Burdensome. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Full of enthusiasm, bro. Hi.
You're going to impose an applause in the background.
We'll put a little of applause in
that.
Yes, so just a big welcome to the channel. It was great to see you. Was it 2 Sundays ago back at Melt to the Masses? You put on a great show. Full of energy, tore the place up. We can't wait to see you now in quarterfinals next, which is probably another 6 weeks time, 7 weeks time, I think it is. But of course,
sometime in May.
What we want to do is we want to introduce people to the band that may not know the band, who may not have had a chance to see you or got a chance to understand a little bit about what you're about. So I'm going to hand over to Kirk, who's got some interesting questions for you. Kirk, all yours.
Yeah, can I just start? Did you play a gig at HMV leading up to the release of the second single? Which HMV was that, and what was the reaction from the general public?
It was the one in Watford, and it was much more positive than I think we expected. A really old man tried to shut us down during sound check, which was interesting because we all thought he was joking until it turned out he wasn't.
He had a personal vendetta against me as well.
Yeah, he was not happy with you in particular. Yeah,
he just told me to get out.
Yeah. But,
he said that we were too loud and we had to stop, and Alex had to leave. Specifically, Alex had to leave.
Not the
I think. I don't know what everyone else is expecting. I was expecting that it would be a novelty factor, so people would wander in because they could hear it, maybe sort of politely stay for half a song or so, and then sort of wander off because we're a pretty heavy band, and it's kind of not. You don't expect a lot of the general public to kind of get it. But pretty much everyone who came in stuck around for the whole show, and quite a lot of people showed up for it. So yeah, overall it was really, really good. It was just a pain in the ass to bring all of the gear and then take it all away again. So it's probably the longest load in and load out we've ever had to do for a show.
Yeah. It was worth it though, because overall it was a really positive experience. The guys over at HMV were awesome with us. They were very welcoming. They were very helpful and supportive, and we really appreciated doing something unique like that, like playing in a record store, which for me personally was sort of a bit of a bucket list for me since I worked in one when I was younger. And it was just a really cool experience because they do a thing called Live and Local where they do try and support the local scene. And if you have records out or something, they want to get you involved in that way, which is a future thing for us. But for the most part, it was just involving us playing in the store. And it was a really cool experience. I think it gave a lot of people the opportunity to see bands like ourselves that wouldn't have a chance to otherwise. So,
yeah, do you know, wasn't your first gig also in celebration of Record Store Day? Was that in St Albans or Hemel Hempstead?
That was Watford as well.
That was what was the store that you played that? That obviously wasn't HMV, was it?
No, we didn't play a store for that one. We played in
O'Neill's.
I'm never calling it by its real name. We played in the Flag.
Oh, the Flag, yeah.
Yeah, we played in the Flag, which was cool. Yeah, that was really fun. We didn't know where we were going to be playing until a little bit before because they spread it out on a bunch of venues.
There were record stores in question that did have bands playing in them that day, but we were allocated to one of the venues, which was in this case, the Flag in Watford.
On that, it's because the record store in Watford was the LP Cafe, which is really cool.
That was it.
They do sort of acoustic acts and singer-songwriters and stuff on Record Store Day because they're still trying to function as a record store, right? So if you cram in 4 dudes blasting like what we're doing, we're gonna 1 take up half the building, and 2, good luck trying to make a transaction while that's happening. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah,
I said a latte.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh no, they might get themselves heard when you two are doing your soloing, because there's more high end in it. It's I can hear you now. That debut single, I just remember I first came across you guys, didn't I, when I saw a poster that you were headlining a show in July 2022 at Hartford Corn Exchange, and you'd only just started, so there wasn't really much of a profile. There was that one single on YouTube, lyric video, Damage Deliverance. So I get the poster and I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, oh, Declan and Owen look like they're probably in a thrash band. And then Alex and then your bass player was like, progressive metal band. They probably look like, or in Architects or something like that. So I didn't know what to expect. And when I played Damage Deliverance, I was just like, holy fuck, this is extreme. You know, and Declan, when I did an interview with you, didn't I, late last year? And you were saying, you just want to write music that's as hard and as heavy and as energetic and absolutely uncompromising as possible.
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. It's the uncompromising thing's the main factor.
Yeah.
Which is like, if you like 95% of what this band is, but there's a 5% thing you don't like, then fuck off and form a band that doesn't do that 5%. Like, you go and do it then. Because, like, this band is doing this. So, like, if there's things that you like about what we do or dislike, but then it's like, cool, you go and do something different then. Like, the whole reason for there being so many bands around is that not everyone sounds the same. So it's not so much a case of like trying to be the heaviest or the hardest or the smartest band or anything like that. It's more just a case of not factoring in, watering it down for a wider appeal. Because I don't think that works.
I think an easier way to put it is like, there aren't many bands that all four of us actually agree on.
Yeah.
Like I grew up on like Slipknot, and one of my favorite bands is Parkway Drive and Periphery and The Ghost Inside. There's like 3 different subgenres of metal right there. And half the bands you go see, I've never even heard of. I can't even pronounce their names. You know, so that's what works, is we're all like putting all of our own preferred styles together and just making something that we think sounds decent. And like Dex says, we're not trying to force our way into a specific subgenre, so it just kind of works in a weird way.
Yeah, like you say, it's basically, you're a metal band. That's all you need to say, isn't it? I mean, yes, you can hear Carcass, Gojira. I know you like Opeth, Declan, Death. I certainly hear. I mean, Owen, I know I've seen you in Metallica and Slayer t-shirts. What's your background? You know, into guitar music, essentially.
So growing up, it was quite elitist metal, but then I think I was certainly biting off more than I can chew for the most part. I remember going to one of my first guitar lessons, and I said to him, "Can you teach me sweep picking?" And he said, "No." And I was like, "Okay, what can you do?" And he played me "Hey Hey" by Big Bill Broonzy, and I was like, "That was awesome. Can you play me that again?" And it just sort of opened my mind to a lot of different styles, and it regarding like what I want to play. And it wasn't just things like learning how to play you know, technical side of things, whether it was, you know, arpeggios or sweeps or string skipping or tapping or anything like that. It was opening my mind to classical or blues or jazz, and just any sort of thing that can influence me in a certain style of playing, and also just having a more diverse set of options to pull from. So when it comes to writing sections to go over the top of something, or contributing to a piece, or starting something on my own, it's I've got a lot to draw from. Yeah, but like growing up in general, like my musical influences were very, very diverse, you know, coming from my sister's interests, which was more to do with like rock and punk, and my parents, which was the more rock and roll era, and then, you know, anything that was coming in at the time. So
I think as well, sorry to like interject, I think specifically the big difference between Owen and I and the way that we approach guitar, not just because I'm like rhythm and he's lead, but I think it's also that Owen's lead playing has a huge foundation in like the really cool old kind of classic rock stuff, where I think a lot of the guitar players had much more of a distinctive voice, whereas when you get into everything kind of post thrash, there's the occasional lead player who really stands out, but for the most part everyone's fucking brilliant, but they all kind of, it's very hard to know who's who. And I think that Owen's still got that sort of slightly more melodic approach to constructing a solo, which I really like. And it means he's got a ton of influences where he'll play a lick where I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? You're like, oh yeah, I learned this. Like, this is a thing that Joe Perry did on like the second Aerosmith record. And it's like, that's where that lick comes from, which is really cool, because I have never listened to a lot of those bands. So it's really interesting for me to hear it, because it's not what I would expect. So yeah, I think his bag of influence is very, very deep, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's not just gratuitous shredding, is it? You can tell in your solos you're putting a lot of thought into it. Clearly, am I right in thinking you probably know which mode it's in and which key it's in and what you need to do for the phrasing? Or is it spontaneous? Okay, I'm just going to do this. If it works, it works.
So sometimes where my approach might be a throw it at the wall and see what sort of sticks. But then from that point onwards, it's, you know, I might find a certain construct to work around. You know, this might be where there's melodic section is, or this might be where there's a thrashy section is, or something. But yeah, I tend to deconstruct the song and work within a theoretical sense, like figuring out the modes or just having a better means of navigating among the fretboard and writing something that I think can lend itself more to the song. Because I think something that I've always stood behind is I don't want to write something that's going to show anything off, so to speak. I've never been particularly interested in showing off what you can do with a piece of wood. It's more about what can you do that's actually going to lend itself to the song more. Because I find you hear a lot of songs sometimes where there's a solo in it for soloing's sake, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather do something where you play a solo and it's even non-guitarists can enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. It's also that thing where some lead players do every solo as a sizzle reel. Like every solo is like I need to show you that I can sweep and that I can do like some finger picking stuff. And
like a checklist.
And yeah, rather than just being like, this is the solo, and in this one I happen to use this one particular technique here because it fits, which I think is much more Owen's approach. But yeah, that's what I think on it anyway.
Yeah, because that's the musical side of it. So Declan, am I right in thinking you write the lyrics for the band?
Yeah. I think like I've always found it weird when you have a band where the vocalist doesn't write the lyrics. Like that's always been really strange to me. And I know there's a lot of bands that don't, like Meshuggah, their drummer writes all the lyrics. Obviously with Slayer, like Kerry King wrote pretty much everything. I mean, Black Sabbath, Geezer Butler wrote every word. So, but yeah, to me, it's like the whole point of being the vocalist is that they're the things you want to say. So,
did you have, you know, for Damage Deliverance, that's quite a political song, isn't it? When you read the lyrics, am I right in thinking there is an element of cynicism? But
I wrote that in November of what year was it? It must have been November 2019, right? No,
2020.
Because January 2021 was when everything kicked off at the White House with like all those Trump supporters trying to barge in.
Capitol Hill, right?
Yeah. So I wrote that song the November just before that January because I could see that's what was coming, and that's exactly what that song is about. Like this thing of like if you're putting all your trust in another charlatan or a con man, it's going to lead to this like blind faith kind of thing, which is going to end up in a violent outcome. And that person who you thought you were doing it for is going to abandon you because they don't give a shit about you, and they never did. Like you've been hooked in to this thing. So that lyric at the end where it's like there's a light that only blinds, it's basically saying that and turn it inside. It's basically saying if you've got all this pent up aggression because you think you're going out there and you're like saving the world by trying to burn down the Capitol building or whatever, there's clearly a lot of things missing in your life that you're choosing to pretend aren't missing because you're focusing on this other thing instead. So it's like stop being caught up in this cult of personality and like look at yourself and think about what you can actually do.
Yeah, that's what's fascinating. When I read it, I thought, yeah, there's clearly some nefarious manipulation, you know, by an elite and people following their dogma, and that leading to disaster. So yeah, great song as well. What about the new single though? I've not seen the lyrics for that. You know, so for Terminal Misery, is that the song that you introduced 2 weeks ago saying, who likes politics? Who voted for the Tories? Is this the song? This is the song, isn't it, that you introduced?
No, I don't think it was. It might have been. I don't know. I never have anything prepared before we go on. So all the stuff I say is like whatever I think is funny at that exact moment in time. So I honestly couldn't tell you. But no, the new song, Terminal, that's... So actually, I didn't know there was already a phrase for this thing until I'd written the song. And the actual phrase is a phrase that's terminal uniqueness, which I hadn't heard that phrase until I'd already written the song. But terminal uniqueness is those people who will find any event and any situation and find a way to make it about them, and how like you don't understand because you're not them, and everything is about them, and they have a victim complex, and it's like, you know, someone halfway around the world gets shot for doing something, and somehow they'll find a way to show how this has affected them negatively rather than looking up the actual situation at large. And it's that sort of lack of empathy that comes with the narcissism of it and all that kind of stuff. And it's about people who are so miserable and that's all they have. And that misery is like, it isolates them further and further and further. And it leads to, it's that self-fulfilling prophecy thing. And it will lead those people to be so fucking miserable, it will kill them. Like your misery will kill you in the end because you are incapable of kind of letting go of it. And that's what the song's about.
Yeah, interesting topic that. It's almost like the opposite to, do you know when you either read or you watch the adaptation of Fight Club? And Edward Norton's character at the beginning, him and he meets Helena Bonham Carter, and they spend their life, don't they, go into like cancer remission sessions and pretending that they've got all these illnesses so that they can feel human, which I suppose is the opposite, 'cause at least they've got some self-consciousness there, aren't they? They would clearly be aware that what they're doing is tragic, whereas that protagonist you've described, I think we've all met that person, haven't we? You phone them up and somebody's died close to you, and they turn the conversation into how someone they know also died.
And it was worse. And it was worse for them.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean? Like, wherever you like, they're always like, you went to Tenerife, they went to 11 Tenerife every time. It's like they're always one more. And I think it's like.
Sorry, I wasn't. No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I think it's also as well where people might like to give the impression of a sympathetic person when really what it is instead of them listening, it's them just waiting for their opportunity to talk and take ownership over the conversation.
I don't know if you did that on purpose. That's a line from Fight Club.
Is it really? I genuinely didn't quote that. I seriously haven't watched that film in a long time, but that's how I certainly interpret the song as well, because I think we've all had the misfortune of meeting someone of that level of toxicity, where they sort of almost think they're going to they're going to take ownership of the situation and make you feel like you're going to benefit from it, when really, they're just projecting their misery onto you as well.
Yeah, I think that is the true definition of narcissism, which seems to be misused a lot now. How often do you meet someone and they just want to describe someone as vain, and they'll just use the word narcissistic, which is not accurate. Whereas, what you're talking about is there's elements of psychopathy there, aren't they? They know how to say all the right things and what needs to be said, but they've got no emotional connection to these situations. But it's great to hear this. And you listen to those mid-90s records from Death, that album Symbolic.
Yeah,
he really goes into this, doesn't he? Really taking ire at the music industry, but people.
Chuck Schuldiner is like one of my biggest like influences, especially lyrically, like more so than anything. Like first couple of Death records are really fun, then Spiritual Healing's a bit of a weird one foot in, one foot out kind of record. But Individual Thought Patterns, Human, and Symbolic are three of my favorite records. And like the length and breadth of topics that he covered and how far ahead of the curve he was and stuff, like the lyrics to 1,000 Eyes. It's like so predating social media, but he's like dead on with what was coming down the line. That like privacy and intimacy as we know it will be a memory among many more to be passed down to those who never knew, like living in the pupil of 1,000 Eyes. That whole thing is genius. And then there's even songs like Destiny, which is like talking about, I mean, like not necessarily romantic, but it's the thing of like, there is no way to escape the pain that we must go through to find the other half that is true, like all that stuff. And I think there's that interview where he talks about how like all the monsters are real. He's like, I don't see any demons ripping people's hearts out. He's like, the things in life that are terrifying is like terminal diseases and people fucking you over and like all that kind of stuff. That's where the real horror of like existence lies. And it's fun to go and write songs about, Lovecraftian waffle, but like that stuff to me is so much more interesting. Like I want a song that's like musically interesting and heavy. And if the lyrics are also about something kind of poignant or like honest, I'm going to connect with it 1,000 times more. So,
and I know that you like Carcass as well, Declan, and I'm the same. And I was listening to Heartwork this week. That is head and shoulders above almost any album in the night in death metal. Never mind that decade.
Especially the production. The production is insane.
Yeah, that's it. When you put it on, to me, I was listening. I was thinking, this is like the Black Album of death metal, isn't it? Heartwork. It's just absolutely perfect. The production and look at the lyrics as well. They invented gore grind and there's a sense of humor. But by the time you get to Heartwork, and then the subsequent 2 albums after that, they're clearly metaphorically talking about the cancer of society and should we say the predatory.
Well, there's 3 albums after Heartwork because it was Swan Song, and then obviously they split, and then they've had the 2 ones like Surgical Steel and Swan Arteries. But yeah, I mean, Jeff Walker is a great lyricist. Like, he's got, again, he's very funny and his humor's really dry. But there's like what is the song on Surgical Steel where it starts off about like a one thing, that song where it's like the sun never sets, the blood never dries, the Master Butcher's Apron, that song.
Yeah.
And then it goes into name like specific things to do with like the military industrial complex, but it's not about it on that big broad term where you can just be the cool guy who's like talking shit about politics. It's like he's talking about one particular conflict somewhere in like West Africa, and he talks about like this specific regiment, and like he really gets into the detail of stuff. And even when they were doing the Gore Grind thing and just writing ridiculous over the top
songs like Excreted Alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, was it Exhume to Consume and like all that stuff?
Yeah.
And like Cadaver Pouch System. And yeah, it's like, that was all copied out of textbooks from, I think his sister's a nurse. And he used to read through the textbooks and just find the most fucked up medical things he could, whether it was surgeries or diseases or parasites, and just write songs about them.
Yeah, the early stuff is an acquired taste, isn't it?
So it's carnage, yeah,
exactly. So obviously the second single came out last month. What are the plans for future releases for the rest of 2023 for Burdensome?
That's something we actually need to sit down all together and discuss, because we definitely need to get some more things put out. We've got another 4 songs finished as a band. We've got another 3, 4 or 5 which have finished, but we haven't like sat in a room and hashed them out yet. So they'll change at that point. But yeah, we've got a show next month in Camden on April 22nd. Then we've got a show, it's at Albans in May, I think it's the 17th. And then it's whatever these Metal to the Masses dates are, and however far we get through with that. That's kind of then the priority. And I think other than that, it would be in our best interest because we've already kind of saturated playing the local scene.
You don't want to get trapped in it, you said, didn't you?
Yeah, you can't just keep playing the same places every 2 weeks. Like, it's just, you're going to get diminishing returns. So, yeah, I think it'd be good for us to get out and really get some stuff recorded and hunker down into that. So we've got more stuff to put out. But it's time and it's money and it's, like both of those things are in short supply for most people. So it's like just figuring that out.
Taking steps in that direction, though, we have actually been branching out and finding studios that we wanted to work with. We weren't just looking for any random studio that will just take us and take our money essentially and just let us lay some tracks down. It's trying to find people that actually have a passion in the metal genre. And so we fortunately found some people that we definitely would like to collaborate with in that respect and get our songs out there in any which way we can, because we just want to get our music out there. That's the real thing that we, the focal point that we want to get to in the near distant future, so to speak. And yeah, Deck's right about oversaturating the local scene. We've been really fortunate to develop a strong local following, which we are really fortunate to have. And it's fantastic to see a lot of familiar faces when we play our shows. But we definitely don't want to, like you said, like oversaturate them and expect them to come to everything, or that we will return to the same venues or same towns every short amount of time. So another part of what we want to be doing is definitely branching out and getting some further afield shows to the best of our ability.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alex, am I right in thinking, did you study music at either A level or university?
I did 2 colleges. So I did a 1-year course at West Arts in Watford. Started a 2-year course at Oaklands in Welling. Got halfway through that, I had a fight with the teacher and left. Which, I mean, he used to pick on me. But yeah, at that point, I just decided I was done being taught, because I was being taught in all these genres that I didn't enjoy playing, and I wanted to, because it was music practice, and it had like the business side and stuff like that. And yeah, I kind of felt like I was done being taught and I needed to find my own ground. And at that point, I was in a thrash metal band with two absolutely exceptional musicians. And it wasn't until I left college that I really, really started to improve when I was playing with these guys. And like that was a thrash metal band. It was, you know, very Megadeth-y, very Metallica, and it was really, really good fun. And that lasted a few years. But as far as my time at college, everything that I was being told to play is just in one ear out the other. I've got ADD, so like if it's not a main point of focus for me, like it just goes. So
yeah, because the reason I asked that is because I was going to say there might be some, surely you'll have made some networking connections, but clearly not if you got into a fight with
no, I mean,
branch out, you know.
I mean, I made, you know, I've still got people on Facebook and stuff like that, and it's I've got a lot of, evidently the connections I've made after leaving college, when I was in a thrash metal band and then I was in a pop punk band, and especially with that pop punk band, I made a lot of connections with a lot of people that they've got a very surprisingly similar taste to me. So I absolutely love pop punk, and you know, like the Sum 41 and A Data Remember and stuff like that. But then I also love, you know, Iowa, Slipknot and stuff like that. So a lot of these people, there was a guy who posted something on Facebook today, actually, who he was in a very, very well-established band. He's taken a step back, and I think he's starting to do like a promotions company and stuff like that. And he posted a thing looking for support bands in the sort of Southampton area that are similar to Killswitch. And you know, I looked at that and thought, yeah, he's not going to want us. But it's those things come up a lot on my Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, so I do keep an eye on him. But yeah, most of the connections I made was through playing, you know, a lot of shows throughout sort of 2015 to 2018.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, my explanations are just wildly relevant stories. Like that's the ADD just spanning out.
Because I suppose the important question, and I should have asked you this in the last interview: would Burdensome exist without COVID-19, without the inertia of COVID-19?
Hang on, is this like out to the floor, or are you asking Alex?
Yeah, no, Declan. So I'm asking you because I forgot. Right. I wanted to ask you this.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. So we got together, the four of us who are in this band, we got together as like the equivalent of kicking a ball around, right? Like we got together to just have a bit of fun. And like when Owen turned 30, because believe it or not, he is 30, we're not in our mid-20s. When he turned 30, he played a show for his birthday where, did you play 3 sets, Owen, that night? Or was it was 3, right?
Yeah, I played 3,
yeah.
Yeah, so basically Owen was in a band at the time with some other guys that we're friends with. And so his band played, and then he played a couple of sets where one was all video game music, and then one was just like some kind of rock and metal covers and stuff. So that was the bit that we all jumped in on. So it was Alex playing drums, Chris playing bass, and then Owen and I I think we actually pretty much took it in turns, right, with vocals and then doing guitar stuff.
Yeah.
And we did Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top, Children of the Grave by Black Sabbath, Ace of Spades by Motorhead, and then Master of Puppets. And like we just played those 4 songs. It was really fun. And then we sort of like got together for a bit afterwards, worked on some other covers and stuff. And then it just kind of petered out because everyone had other stuff going on. And then by the I said to you about this before, like this is when I'm coming out of a recovery where I couldn't play guitar for a few years because of my wrist. So at that point I was able to play again. So from there I was just playing tons and tons of guitar. Started writing some stuff. And then during the pandemic, the only difference was I had the time to sit and record demos. But I probably would have got around to that anyway. This maybe would have happened. It probably would have happened sooner because I would have been able to put those. I probably would have recorded the demos later, but then we could have got together sooner. So, but yeah, it still would have been the same 4 people, and it still would have. So
I just want to interject on that. If not for COVID-19, I probably wouldn't be the drummer, purely because during COVID I had nothing to do but sit on my ass, play video games, and drink. And I decided I wanted to. Most people did it. I was on furlough for like 6 months, and I just thought, sod it, I'm going to start like a drumming page, which evidently amounted to bugger all aside. I've got an endorsement with a stick company, but they don't listen to me anymore. So, but I started, doing these drum covers and just, drumming to Disney songs and just stuff like that. And it was being in Sanctuary Studios in Watford, playing this stuff and just having fun with it. That's what made me want to be in a band again. Like, I'd been put off of being being in a band for quite a while. And yeah, because I remember, Dek, you were putting like riffs up on your Insta story, and I was like, that sounds absolutely fucking sick. And I responded a couple of times, like, I can't even remember what I said. I know that I responded to him, and then eventually you were like, here, listen to, like, here's the link to this. Listen to these tracks, see what you think.
Yeah, so I posted a thing up just as like a kind of blanket thing, saying like, if anyone out there knows of or is a drummer and would be interested in doing some stuff with this, let me know. And like, we've still kept in touch a bit here and there, and you had plan, but I put it out as like a blanket thing, and then you messaged me being like, actually, yeah, like I think I'll be interested, but obviously that's like, being in a band's a massive commitment, right? So I was like, cool, here's some songs, listen to him. If you think you are interested, then like, we'll get together and we'll have a little kick around, like just work on a couple of bits of the song, see how you feel. And then if you're into it, then it's like, then we can kind of get going. I
think the first 4 sessions was just me and you as well, wasn't it? Like, I just came over and we just jammed, and it felt right. Like, I can play to anything, but if I don't enjoy it, I'm just not going to be interested. And that was the point where, like, I was playing to these songs and I could see, myself enjoying these on stage and just having a great time.
Do you know when you sent the music to Declan, you've put programmed drums in there, haven't you? Or have you just sent in?
So Damage.
I'd send the demos with drums programmed on them, and then but they're always like a guide. So it's like, this is like
a concept, an idea.
Yeah. And then Alex will come in and basically, some things you'll completely change, some things you'll keep the same, and kind of anywhere in between. There might be some stuff where specifically I'm like, can you play this exact thing here? And then like somewhere else where I'm like, yeah, kind of do what you want on that section. So, but it's the same with Chris. It's
You mean on the new one with your 37 different time signatures, and I'm sitting there like, maths.
yeah.
Just to add a little bit to what Kirk said, I'm not going to let my ADHD get away with this. I'll be quick.
Sorry.
No, seriously. So, in regards to would Burdensome be the same without the pandemic? I'd argue it would be marginally different. Like Dek said, this band started out as a means of us just playing together, playing that show. It was used as a means of, it was used as a conduit for just people playing the show together and having some fun. And then that evolved into us being in a room again, and then Dek showing us some riffs that he's actually written as opposed to covers, asking what we thought we could contribute to it. And I was like, at the moment, nothing, because I don't feel like I'm good enough. And that was an honest opinion. I thought it was awesome, but I didn't feel like I was the caliber of guitarist that was needed to contribute to what Dek was writing. I was really impressed by it, but I just felt like it was nice that he was showing me, but I felt like he was the wrong guy. When COVID came about, we ended up going into lockdown, and I had not survivor's guilt, but whatever it is, where my friends and family were working during the pandemic. I have my sister and my mother who work in care, and I'm there twiddling my thumbs, and I'm thinking like, I want to do something, but I can't. The worst thing I could do is just have this moment where I'm at home and it'd be a wasted opportunity. So I really, at that exact moment, I decided to work as hard as I could to be a better guitarist in order to contribute to this band that didn't even have a name, but I knew I wanted to be a part of it. In my heart, I knew I wanted to be a part of it, and it was something that was just so integrally important to me. At some points it got to me. It was like, you know, I phoned up Dek like almost in tears, like, I don't think I can do it. I don't think I could. I'm writing things that are good enough. And he was like, just put the fucking guitar down and let's just, you know, lockdown's easing. Let's just go hang out and talk about anything else. And then when things started to come together again, it was, you know, I felt like I was, definitely, I've worked on certain techniques and more theoretical aspects of guitar playing that just would lend themselves better to what would eventually become Burdensome. So I would say that the pandemic in some way did aid myself becoming a better musician for that. So that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it accelerated your need and want, didn't it, to be a better guitar player? I think that's what you're saying. Yeah. You did that to others, like you said, Alex. You know, you're playing video games and drinking. You're thinking, oh, I could do this for 6 months. I don't know where my head will be at the end of those 6 months, but yeah, no, I think that energy does come through, certainly in the music. So just before we bring this to an end, can we? You said you've got 4 songs written. Does that mean they're in the pre-production stage, or are they already recorded?
Yeah, I'd say they're pre-production. You've seen us play, and I think you've seen us play 5 of the 6 songs we have that are finished as a band. Mm-hmm. And then, we've got another, like 3, 4, or 5, which are finished in terms of like, I have been able to present them to the other guys as like, this is a song, right? It like starts here, it has this many sections, it ends there. And then it will be the case of like digging into it, where someone's like, oh, okay, hang on, let's like, I want to change something here, or like this needs a lead melody, or Chris will come in with like a bass line that fits in somewhere, and all that kind of stuff. So, and then until we kind of hash those out, I don't know if things are going to change structurally. So I don't write lyrics until we kind of get to that point.
Yeah, no, that's good then. So even if we can't expect, even if there's not an EP this year, it's clearly something you don't need to rush it, do you? I think that's what you're saying. You've not got any deadlines to meet. It's just something that when you all, am I right thinking, when you all feel ready, and like you said, Owen, you've actually sought out some sound engineers and producers who listen to metal rather than just taking your money.
Yeah.
So that'll probably be, am I right thinking that'll be the main event of 23 then, at least recording those 4 songs?
Yeah, I'd say so. We'll be getting some stuff recorded to put out. Our big focus right now is just trying to do our best for this Metal to the Masses thing. I don't like calling it a competition. I don't know what you'd call it, but like that's really the focus, like just to show up and fucking murder those shows as best we can. Because that's really like the big push at them at this exact point in time. Once that's out of the way, whether we've like fallen on our sword or not, it's like then we can look at recording, and then it's whatever comes next after that. Like getting back out and playing more shows and yada yada yada. So
it's a weird double-edged sword, because we respect the fact that we need to get the music out there, but also we still salivate for playing live shows, and then we prepare for those shows, and then it's like, some things get put on the back burner naturally, and especially with Metal to the Masses, that's something that we are especially hungry for. We're chatting amongst ourselves all the time, back and forth, like, about how we're going to approach it, or we're just hungry to play it, and we're already like talking heavily about the next show, what we can bring to the table on that one. So, but when I think when that rolls the way it does, then we'll definitely be talking about getting into the studio and getting some music out there as quick as we can.
Excellent. Well, I'll hand it back over to Dave then. You want to bring things to a close?
Cheers, Kirk. So just want to say best of luck, obviously, in, I guess it's probably second week of May. I think quarterfinals kick off for Metal to the Masses, somewhere around that sort of time, I believe, because we've still got another 6 more weeks of, not 6 more weeks of winter, but 6 more weeks of Metal to the Masses, which is going to be fun. But best of luck in that. I just want to say a big thank you for obviously spending some time with us, talking about all your plans. We'll look forward to the new music, hopefully by the end of this year. Best of luck, and thank you very much for the guys from Burdensome.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having us. Pleasure.
See you again.
There you go. I'll get all this edited down, guys, and it's probably going to be sentient Monday. I think is when it will go live.
Sure.
I think there's 4 others. There's Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, so you'll be on Monday. But I'll send you a link with it all in. All right, mate.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you very much, David. Thank you
again, guys. Have a good evening.
See you again.
Take care of yourselves. Speak to you soon.
Bye.